Let's start with the whole 3D, because both you and I have seen it. So, not to be confused with Onibaba, incidentally, which of course is one of the scariest movies ever made, which is a 15 certificate movie. What? Onibaba, which translates as The Hole.
Right. Well, we're not likely to confuse Onibaba with The Hole in 3D, are we?
If you're looking for a horror movie called The Hole that's not an 18 certificate, you might well be given a copy of Onibaba.
Onibaba.
It's called Onibaba brackets The Hole.
Yeah, well, it's not going to be. That's only going to confuse stupid people.
Right, but if you've never seen Takeshi Kinto's Onibaba, you should see it. That is a really, really scary film. But
I'm not going to confuse it with a Joe Dante movie.
Okay, fine. So The Hole 3D, or The Hole in 3D, or The Hole, which happens to be in 3D. Story is kids move into a house. They've moved several times. They move into a house. There's there's two brothers and a mother who is a single mother who clearly has some issues with the father of the children who is absent. They move into a house. They go downstairs into the basement. They discover a trapdoor with several locks on it. They go, what should we do with these locks? I know. Let's open them. And then they discover that beneath their house there is a hole. No. They then invite, I'm telling you this, you've seen it, they then invite the next door neighbour, who's this friendly teenager, to come round, and she realises that what they have beneath their house is a hole. Here's a clip.
Some kind of passageway for dead people.
Why would a little girl be down there?
I'd rather know why she followed me into the bathroom at the diner.
Maybe it's a wormhole.
A what?
A wormhole. Like a doorway between different universes.
Oh my gosh.
What?
Wow, okay, you know what? You need to stop reading so much. Turn into a little geek.
When's Mom gonna come home?
Not till midnight.
You should have called her.
No, bad idea.
It's fine with me. It's okay with you, right?
Yeah, I mean, but I just think we should, see what we've got before we say anything.
I know what you've got. You've got a gateway to hell under your house. And that is really cool.
So it's that.
It's a great conclusion.
It is, isn't it? That's really cool. It's that interesting conundrum, which is that it is a horror movie for kids. Obviously, in America, PG-13. Over here, 12. The BBFC information states that at 12A, 12, moderate physical and psychological threat may be permitted, providing disturbing sequences are not frequent or sustained. The horror here is sustained in places. However, the horror never goes beyond moderate, and there is only one moment of brief gore. So, and when Joe Dante came in the program, he spoke very eloquently about the difficulty of pitching a movie, which is a horror film, but for kids. Therefore, the key protagonists have to be of a certain age. And then everyone will complain demographically, oh, if you made them older, then you get an older teenage audience in. But then the film wouldn't work, because in the end, it is a kids' horror movie, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think the things to say about it are, firstly, Joe Dante is a person who's worked in and worked through the horror genre throughout his life. He's incredibly cine literate. He is a real sort of mine of information about horror films. As you know, his career dates back to Piranha. We were talking about the fact that Piranha 3D is now, but Piranha Howling, of course, which beat American Werewolf to the punch in terms of the on-screen transformation sequence. Which it was very interesting. They were fighting to get the movie out first. I think over here at least Howling hit the screen first. Gremlins, most famously, which again rode that line between being a kids movie and being an adult movie. I still think his best movie is Matinee, which I absolutely love. But he's a lovely, likeable, cine-literate, intelligent filmmaker, and you kind of always feel safe in his company. In the case of The Hole, the first thing to say is 3D schmeedy. I know that people have talked about the premiere of the Werner Herzog Caving movie, which has just played at a film festival recently. They said, well, this is it. This is what 3D is made for. And The Hole seems like an obvious way of using 3D, because it's a hole, it's an immersive experience. Anything that I like about the film had nothing to do with the 3D.
But I would say that I think the 3D works, and it's more relevant in this film than in Toy Story, where there's no point in it being in 3D. At least there's a couple of sequences where they're shining the light down the hole, and we see it shot from down the hole. Yeah. And you kind of think, wow, that actually is shining. I think that was worth it.
Okay. I disagree, but I understand why you'd think that. There is the sequence at the beginning with the kids.
You've almost accepted my position.
No, I'm saying you're wrong. I didn't finish that sentence. I understand that's why you'd think that, because obviously that's what an uneducated person would think.
It was when you finished the sentence. That's when I thought you'd actually might have finished the sentence.
With which I had finished the sentence. There's a scene when there's a kid lying in a bed throwing a ball up into the air, and the camera's over top, and that's a direct reference to the paddleball sequence from House of Wax, which of course is the great, the Andre de Toth 3D film. Interestingly, because the director actually could only see, it was monocular, so he could never see the film in 3D anyway. So the other thing about it is there are some lovely cameos. Bruce Dern plays the creepy guy. I love Bruce Dern. I could basically watch Bruce Dern in anything. And if I know that there's a cameo of Bruce Dern as the creepy guy who was scared of the darkness, I'm kind of sort of on board already. There is obviously, with anything like this, if you're making a film which is going to play to that younger audience, you need to back right off in terms of gore. So what that makes you do is to be, careful and inventive with what you show,
and super creepy.
Super creepy. So there are references here to movies like Poltergeist. I mean, it's interesting. You remember the tagline for Poltergeist was "It knows what scares you," which is kind of a key theme of what's happening in The Hole. And also in The Hole, we have one of the things is this little clown doll. One of the kids is scared of clowns. There's a word for that. Is it what's the word for fear of clowns? Is it chronophobia? There is a word for it.
One of our highly trained team
will tell us what the word
right at this moment.
It's one of those words that
up.
sounds like it actually means fear of clocks, but it is fear of clowns. And there is this animated clown puppet, which really is creepy. Yes. I mean, I don't like clowns at the best of times, and the animated clown puppet is genuinely creepy. And of course, you think if you'd seen that in a film that was made in the 1960s, it would have been the old, X-rated or previously to that an H-rated film. And what's happened is that cinema has changed, but there are enough on-screen thrills and spills in the past to have given it a proper full-on horror film rating. There are certainly many moments when they're reaching down into the hole, when they're climbing down into the hole. I think there are several references to Poltergeist, because you remember in Poltergeist they climb into the hole that leads them through into another dimension. There's an awful lot of people tied to bed sheets hanging down into the hole. That's going on. But there are plenty of moments in it in which he's worked really hard to make the creepiness. And actually, there was a couple of moments when I was thinking, actually, is that now too scary to take an 11 or 12-year-old? I know you had the same feeling, didn't you?
I thought it was fantastic. I mean, really, really creepy until they go down the hole.
And then
I didn't think it was very creepy.
But that's the same with Poltergeist, is that once you get into the abyss, it's just the abyss. That's fine, and the way it's. But I think that they managed to stave that moment off for long enough. I mean, in the end, it's by no means a masterpiece, but what it is it's lovingly created. It's put together by somebody who likes his cinema, somebody who, more importantly, likes his audience. I mean, it is a film which is made with a certain degree of respect for the audience. It's made with a cine literacy that it wears very sort of casually. It doesn't, do that Quentin Tarantino thing about ramming all its references down your throat. If you were an 11 or 12-year-old, I think you'd think it was a genuinely full-on creepy horror movie. But we should say that because it's playing to kids' fears. If that bit in Poltergeist, when the clown doll disappears and the kid looks under one side of the bed and then looks under the other side of the bed and then sits up and suddenly the clown doll is behind, if that bit scared you, there's a whole section in The Hole that will completely do for you. I'm 47 and I didn't like the clown doll in The Hole.